small power is quite useless.
To ye, and welcome to episode 11 of All Art is Quite Useless. This episode shall be the penultimate of this run, or season if you will, as we'll be taking a break to prioritise a few writing projects and plan the next season of the podcast also. I can't imagine it'll be too long before we're back with more episodes, but if you can't wait till then, we'll have a special bonus one next week, which will act as a retrospective of this inaugural season. It may end up being terrible, as we sink a few cans and get the blue is the warmest colour debate raging again, but then again, it might not. This week, though, we see our second special guest, one James Freeman. We all met James at uni, and we've been itching to have him on since we first started, so gave him free rein over what we discussed this week. He played up to all of our stereotypes of him as he picked the 2018 DOTA 2 Internationals Final, a documentary produced by Valve called True Sight, link in the description. So turn on, tune in, drop out to the penultimate episode of Season 1. See you on the other side. One,
2,
3.
4.
We're smashing it every week now.
Yeah, I don't know how we ballsed it up for quite so long as we did, to be honest.
How could you make
I don't
that?
know.
How could you get that wrong?
The amount of crap I've left on the cutting room floor, James, you wouldn't believe.
enough for another episode.
Oh, hello, James. James Freeman. You're not Jack Campion.
No.
You're a special guest today.
Yes,
Hello.
I am. Yes. Hello.
It's splendid to have you on.
It's great to be on, Lou.
Yeah, extreme
Welcome.
friend of the pod. Yeah. I don't know why I said extreme. it's not like you're a mountain biker or anything like that. One of those guys.
He's no Danny Hart.
Base jumpers. He's no Danny Hart. To be fair, there's only one Danny Hart.
There is only one Danny Hart.
Yeah, James is our good friend. We love James very much, and we're very thrilled to have him on. You're our second special guest we've had on after Anthony. I think I said in the last episode that Jack couldn't be here today. I can't even remember why he can't be here today. It's completely slipped my memory. As to
I think
why.
he was just like, wouldn't mind sitting out on this one if you're having a guest. And then we were just sort of like, all right then.
I think he was heavily hinting at like, I
Really?
can't be bothered to do it.
Yeah.
He didn't outright say it, but the moment I suggested, well, maybe we can get a guest in for this one, Jack, if it doesn't work for you. He was like, yes. I was like, I hadn't even finished the sentence yet.
Yeah, you guys do that. Wouldn't want to put you out or anything. Honestly, it's fine. Just go ahead without
as
me.
opposed to putting us out for the previous 10 episodes.
Here's my
We're
leave
throwing him
request.
under the bus, aren't we?
Oh,
To be fair, we throwed you under the bus, Liv, when you weren't here, so
little bit, yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, we know I met James at university. Well, we all met James at university.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
We did say to Anthony when he came on, Anthony, the way we'd like to do guest episodes is pick whatever it is you would like us to look at, because by this point, we rack our brains trying to think of crap to pick for the podcast, and it gives us a chance to get a totally outsider perspective. And so James has done exactly that. When given the choice, when I messaged him on WhatsApp in the week and said, James, we'd love to have you on, please come on. You get to pick. And I could tell James was very excited by this prospect. He sent me so many cautionary messages before, like if you don't want to do it, we totally don't have to do this one. We don't have to do it.
Well, I didn't know what the
He was just like,
reaction would be.
don't quite Google it. like, but maybe don't Google it just yet. Like, you have to have context. I was like, what? I might be prepared so heavily for what we're
Have a
about to
little bit
see.
of context, at least a little bit of context.
I don't know whether I was pleasantly surprised or disappointed in what it was. I was just so shocked that it was.
Oh God, yeah.
What's it called? It's called True Sight.
Well, the thing I chose for this week is it's, I suppose you could call it a documentary, almost like a TV show sort of style thing of an hour-long episode of the final of the 2018 International DOTA Championships, which is one of the biggest esports games in the world. And for the last few years, every year they've put out this thing called True Sight, Valve, the creators of the game, which is basically, like this thing. They just follow the teams and the day, what happens throughout the day, etc., of the final. And that's what we watched today.
It's the only, I guess, the only documentary we've looked at so far
Yeah.
on the Live Pod.
The only competitive thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we haven't looked at anything gaming related yet, and I think most of us on here are keen gaming gentlemen.
I'm not.
Liv, unsurprisingly, Liv is not a gentleman gamer.
Liv does like The Sims. Yeah, she does.
Yeah, The
Unless it's The
Sims. I like a few like classic Xbox games like Simpsons Hit and Run,
Mario Kart.
Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, Mario Kart I'm obsessed with, yeah.
I'm pretty good at Mario Kart, if I remember rightly, as well.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I'm not really a gamer as such. So yeah, I was sort of like, great, an hour of my life watching a Dota tournament.
So when I was watching this the other night, all I could think about the whole time was, James is gonna have to talk Liv into watching this, and somewhere in the world, Liv will be watching this at some point, and I just couldn't stop laughing at the thought of that. Because I was thinking, like, I don't really care about Dota. I quite like video games, but Dota kind of loses me. I don't really get MOBAs and those sort of arena hero games like that. It's a bit too fast paced, and it's not really my sort of thing. But I can keep up with it, just about. I was like, if I'm getting lost in some of the gameplay stuff, I wonder how Liv's getting on with it.
Yeah.
So, I guess at this point we'll give our thoughts. Liv, I'm desperate to hear your thoughts so much.
Well, it's interesting because I actually think, for full disclosure to any podcast listeners, me and James are boyfriend and girlfriend, so I hear a lot of the Dota spiel day to day because James is very, very obsessed with Dota. So actually, I was finding myself to know quite a bit about it. Like I recognised some of the characters. I was able to name a few of them. I was like, "Oh, that's Monkey King in the lineup and stuff." So yeah, I actually think I probably know more about it and could have followed it better than perhaps anyone here except for James. So.
You probably know more than I do, to be honest.
No, I definitely think that's true. Yeah, I think Liv was like, "Oh, I remember him. You play him sometimes, don't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I do, Liv. I do. Earthshaker, I do. I'm no FY, but I do play Earthshaker every now and again."
Luckily, you don't have to have too much knowledge about Dota to watch this. Although, actually, I did sort of find, like, I think it was actually, it's not even the last game they played, but like the second to last game. I was sort of like, it's been like 15 minutes in this game.
They dedicate a lot of time to that game, don't they?
Yeah, and I was just a bit like, oh my God, I was nearly falling asleep as well. I was like, I don't actually care this much about this. What did I think of it? Yeah, the documentary, it was very interesting in the sense that it's such a world that I'm like not familiar with, like this intense careerist gaming. Like I didn't even know that existed until obviously James spoke about it and I watched this documentary and I got a better insight into it. So I think the topic itself is actually very interesting. I'm not sure if the way they like presented the information, like the topic, for me was, it's not. I don't think it's an entry level documentary. Like, I think like if we're watching, if I am as a non Dota player, I'm watching a documentary about Dota. I want a middleman. Like, I want Louis Theroux there to guide me through it and sort of like be on my team, and then we sort of laugh at these weird sweaty nerds. I was also surprised because they looked very non-sweaty and quite normal. I know that's a bit sort of
one team more so than other, I thought, but
yeah, we won't say which one. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I thought the production level was really good. Like, there were some really nice shots in that, and it was filmed really nicely, and it was kind of interesting and kind of enjoyable. Like, I don't know if that's just because I already know a little bit about Dota, or because it's just like a well-made documentary, which it is. But I would have enjoyed a documentary angled more at like a introduction to Dota, the world of Dota. Like, let me take you through and meet all these players, and more like an outsider level.
Cool. Jamie, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so I have actually played Dota a couple of times in my life. Not very for very extensive periods though, but I did play League for quite a bit, and it was a few years where I kind of got to grips with that. So a lot of the terms used in this documentary I was already kind of familiar with, because I didn't realise how similar a lot of them were. Like, they used basically the same ones for a lot of the big mechanics.
They're so similar, the two games.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably the case for most MOBAs.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
So yeah, that wasn't really an issue for me. And despite already being aware that these kind of tournaments went on and that the prize pools were huge, I'm always, whenever I see these things, still it's not quite worn off the scale of it at the moment. And I think that's probably what most of our discussion is going to be around, because esports and competitive gaming at the moment hold such a weird place where nobody's quite sure how it compares to the other stuff. There's been like talks of, whether these should really be taken seriously on a further level than the actual tournaments that go on at the moment, and whether they should be taken higher than that. But yeah, it's such a bizarre thing. And actually, one of the things that I thought about that I was kind of aware of but was really driven home in this one was the amount of information that those players have to retain. Like, whereas it might not be as physically strenuous or as intense as physical sports as we know them, or like traditional sports, the amount of I guess calculations that they have to make before they do any play is ridiculous. Even like they had their spreadsheet when they were doing picks and bans, deciding who they were going to play out against each other, and you could just see, like, they never showed it fully, but you could tell that you had this big spreadsheet of, okay, if they pick this person, we'll have to go here, depending on like their players and stuff. And yeah, so I found it interesting, but I think probably a little bit more familiar, because I have watched a couple of League ones, but yeah, I was just surprised at how similar it was to that, really.
That's cool.
Cool.
Cool, man.
Thanks, man.
Rocking.
Louis, yes, I'd like to hear your opinion here, please.
Louis.
Take the mic.
I found it strangely compelling. It flew by for an hour. Considering it was something I had no interest in at all. And I did find a lot of the actual Dota parts of it the hardest to follow, just because, like I say, I don't really care about that kind of gameplay, or when you hear the shoutcaster commentating, which is so impressive, by the way. Like,
it's crazy,
oh
isn't
my
it?
god, yes.
Like, fair. I've seen like fighting game ones, because I kind of prefer fighting games. I find that aspect of it really entertaining, and I think you could do a good documentary about a tournament of any kind like that. It's really fascinating, and the glossy production of it, I found a bit funny at first. I was like, man, it's so over the top and epic. I was like, but then when you see the scope, for like, wait, no, it is. Like, to these people in this arena, it deserves that treatment. Yeah, it was really compelling. It reminded me of I'm a really big football fan, and it reminded me quite a lot of the story of the 2011-12 last day of the season in the Premier League when Man City and QPR played each other, and Man City won it with the last kick of the entire season. And it's just like there are those. If you scroll through the comments on the documentary on YouTube, you see all these people like, "Oh, I get chills every time they say where's Axe." Or
Yeah.
Seb, is it Seb? Seb says, "This is my round. I'm feeling it."
Yeah, he said this.
And once,
This is my game,
Yeah.
boys.
Seb was a
This is
legend.
my
he seemed
game,
like a
boys.
really lovely, nice bloke who got it.
He wasn't captain, but he used to be a coach, and then
Was he not?
he became a player after. I think
He seems the natural
Yeah.
leader of the group.
he was such a, like, Olivia said to me, "Oh, they're a bit cocky, OG," and I was like, I don't know. I feel like it's just they have to get into that mindset. He was just like, "We're gonna win. We're gonna win. We're gonna win." You know what I mean? He was just like,
Yeah,
but
"We're gonna beat him. We're gonna beat him." It worked.
People at that end of any sort of athleticism or sport, though, are just like that. Because
Yeah.
you don't get that far without having that kind of mentality, I
Yeah,
suppose,
yeah.
do you? You have to back yourself, otherwise you'll never make it that far. As lame as it sounds, it's like sort of like it should be on a poster in a gym, but it's probably quite true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certain arrogance gets you so far.
Yeah.
I agree, but they were sort of like, they're really panicking now, aren't they? Like, oh god, they must be really worried. They're really overthinking it. And then they'd like, OG would lose, and it's like, bit embarrassing, mate. I know they obviously didn't lose in the end, but
They pulled through.
I don't know. I guess that seems less weird to me because I know that that's like a thing they would do in football as well.
Yeah,
It's just that
exactly. They do it.
You have to say these things to help you get through it, and
I know, but the other team
Use your
weren't
boys
doing
up.
that,
well, they were a bit.
were they?
Well, they were being quite rude, you know.
Yeah, I thought the PSG.LGD team.
Yeah.
What is it? LGD PSG? Something like that.
PSG.LGD, yeah.
Yeah. I thought the documentary definitely
that's catchy,
invited you
OG.
to not like them as much. I
Not
felt a
really.
little bit bad for them that they weren't given the same
think?
personable treatment. As
Yeah,
OG were.
it definitely. When I watched it, I obviously know the teams a little bit and the players and stuff. I know of them, but obviously most of what I see from them is like in stuff like this, like for example. And when I first watched it, I definitely thought, God, I'm so much more behind OG than PSG.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I desperately want OG to win, especially when you know the backstory of them. Sort of their whole team sort of got gutted, and they sort of had to sort of panic buy, like not buy, but round up two players to take
Mm-hmm.
like two really, really important positions in their team in the space of no time at all. And to come out and beat the favourites in the final and to come back in such a way from, those last two games and the comeback was really incredible. And it's a sort of moment that you don't need to even like the sport or the game or whatever it is to care. You know, it's just cool, isn't it, when there's an underdog story and somebody comes back and wins, you know?
Exactly. It's a modern version of the sporting underdog story, just
Yeah,
in
basically,
esports, isn't
it
it?
is.
I think that's the really fascinating angle of it. Is that I think if you showed this to just people who are kind of interested in sport generally, they'd probably get behind it because
Yeah.
it is a pretty exciting story told pretty well and shot really well. You know, it's the equivalent of Leicester winning the Premier League the year they did it. When it's just like they narrowly avoided relegation the year before. Their striker firing them ahead is just a guy who used to work in a factory and lower league football and loves getting pissed up on the weekends.
Yeah.
And their manager is an ex-huge boss, recently got fired by Greece for just not being good enough. And it's like all these weird perfect storms come together to make a fairy tale. And I guess that's kind of what this was as well.
Kind of, yeah. It is.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I much more than I thought I would.
I do know what you mean, Liv. Like, because of the nature of it, it's made by Valve, you know, the game developer, and it's definitely made for people who play Dota, you know, for people who play the game. But obviously, when I watched it, I remember thinking, God, that was quite good, actually. Like, I feel like I've got to show someone this to see if I just like it because I love the game or if it is actually quite good. But it is quite good. Like, it's shot so well. And it's like you never ever get that, even with huge sports. Like, the nature of esports gives you the potential to have these cameramen follow round the teams like on fag breaks and just literally be a fly on the wall like in between games and hear
There's many a
absolutely
fag break in
everything,
this.
you know. And you just don't get that
Just
with other
chaining
sports, and that's I'm guessing that is why it's called True Sight, because in the game, True Sight is like it's basically the ability to see like stuff that's hidden. Like when you have True Sight, you can see invisible players and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's called True Sight. I think, you know, I'm guessing why that's
To
why
get the behind the scenes view.
because you see, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool, but also it's like I want to see more. Like I don't. It's too much gameplay for an outsider like myself and for the general viewing population. Like I want to see them like behind the scenes, like just chatting or like talking more about how they got into Dota. I would be really interested.
I know what you
like,
mean.
How do you get to the level where you're winning £11 million in a gaming competition? Like, what has your life been like? Like, how did
That's
you get
more than
that
most
good?
Premier League prize pot money. That is a lot of money.
It's huge.
That is like life changing.
Yeah, it's such a huge industry.
Hugely.
Yeah, so I'd love to
yeah.
like know more about the people themselves. Like, I think that's the most interesting thing about the topic. So that for me was
What
a
I
bit
would
shame.
say there though is that this documentary probably isn't made for you and I. Because I agree, I want more of that as well.
No,
but
it
I know for a
wasn't.
fact if it did more of that, comments in the down below the video would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is so cringe." Like, because the people who like it the most, they already know everything about Dota, and I think it's assumed knowledge for the.
And those are the people
for
that want to see the
audience,
gameplay as well.
They probably don't really care about how the people got into Dota because it's not interesting to a Dota player.
Yeah,
They
that's
already
like-
know.
Well, how else? How do
They
you
were
get
bored.
into games? You just play. Yeah, they're just guys who play video games, and they got really good. That's it. Most of them just got good, like either at home or playing in internet cafes in their home countries after school every single day for 5 years, and suddenly they're insanely good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
Don't like a few of them come from streaming backgrounds as well. Like they'll start streaming because they're
Yeah,
good at
that's
playing the game, and
exactly
people
right.
like watching them because they either want to like improve and mimic what they're doing, or just because it's obviously enjoyable to watch somebody who's really good at playing the game, and then I suppose you get scouted.
that one of
way,
them was,
maybe.
you know, OG's mid called Topson, who got actually quite shafted most of the games. You probably remember
Yeah.
him going like, "Oh, God."
yes,
Oh,
Yes.
Was he the guy in the
really
glasses?
white hair. Yeah,
He got big
Yeah.
streaming. Yeah,
Oh,
through
okay.
streaming.
Mhm.
That's how he got picked up
That makes
and sort of like called by OG, sort of thing. Like, we want you as our mid because we've just lost our big star player to another team called Evil Geniuses.
that's so crazy, isn't it?
Can you imagine? Yeah, if you were one of those players that got bought, and then the
Yeah,
team you were with
exactly.
goes
It
on
is.
to win.
And you know, they won it. They won. Well, if you don't mind me telling you spoilers, guys, but this was 2018. So next year, the year after, there was another one. If you're interested in watching that, if you want
Oh
me
my
to.
God.
I thought about it. I honestly thought about watching the next one.
Do they win again?
Oh well, I can't tell you that. I
I
can't.
was going to say I might actually watch it.
Yeah,
so
I won't
I'd
say
quite
that.
like to
But
be
there-
unspoiled.
There's another one in 2017 and 2019, and both of them are good. But 2018 is my personal favourite just because of Seb. You know,
A BKB pop by challenge, he'll get the ult out. No getting got out straight away by F5 with the shot. Beautiful save. They get the bash out. Sonos will be able to find the ire. They get Thompson. Thompson never did it.
One out.
Sony Anna. Can he survive? Anna, can he do it here? Is it half save?
That is the literal esports version of Aguero.
Yeah.
Good points. Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero!
I love how confounded everyone
Yeah.
was when he picked Axe, and then it went on to be the thing that won them the
And-
game.
Yeah,
However many millions of dollars it was.
that is insane.
Yeah.
I
It's
wonder how
weird
rich
that-
they were before.
I mean, they'd won a few majors and stuff, so that they must have, been doing well from it. But it wasn't until, I don't think they would have won anything quite on this scale, obviously. But
I wonder how much of the money they'd share out. Because I was like, right,
Oh,
I lagged a bit there, so I didn't realise you started speaking. Sorry.
oh, that was a bit laggy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Laggy Louis, bringing us down.
I think it was
Yeah,
you,
I
actually,
wonder if
Liv.
Dad's streaming his Dota gameplay.
I think it was your dodgy lag, Liv.
Oh, was it? I did just get an internet unstable thing flash up.
I don't know, it was
That'll
definitely
be it then.
Laggy Livy. Well, I can't even remember what I said now, so just carry on, Louis.
Yeah.
I thought it's really funny how it's just such an enormous arena and everyone's really hyped up for it, and then you see these really low energy guys just sort of slowly stroll onto stage. These kind of I don't want to say scrawny, but quite
Yeah.
thin. I don't know, dweebish looking guys. This is also mean sounding, but you know what I mean? They don't have that commanding presence that athletes do in a similar environment.
They're nerdy guys. They love gaming.
Yeah.
They're going to be gamers. They're going to have spent most of their adolescence on a computer playing MOBAs and, MMORPGs and all the rest of it, wasting their life on the internet, as their parents have probably said, until they won the grand, 11 million.
Until they won 11 million.
And then they took it all back, of course. But yeah,
I did think they were slightly nerdy, but I did think they weren't as nerdy as I was thinking they'd be. Or maybe, oh God, I'm trying to avoid saying mean things about certain people. But I've
about
been in
never?
Dota cafes abroad, not by choice. James has dragged me into Dota cafes, and it's literally in a basement. And I've seen the kind of people who go in there, and yeah, I was thinking they'd be more
You're
like
going
that.
out with one of them.
yeah, me. I was frequenting
That's
them.
true. I mean, I was also in that Dota cafe, so who am I to judge?
They probably thought, who's this creep?
The worst thing is, in a lot of them, you can smoke as well. So there really are dungeons. You go down to these places where it's really popular, and they've either got a room sort of connected by the side, like in some places. I went to one in Mongolia, and they had a sort of smoking room, which every time somebody went in and out of it, the whole room just went from the fumes.
Oh, that's vile.
And then in the other ones, I went into one where it was basically just somebody's front room in Paraguay, and loads of dudes were just sitting there. And I walked in, and they sort of look at you up and down, like, how the hell did you find this place? Why? We haven't ever had anybody from Argentina come in. This is purely Paraguayans from this town, this neighbourhood of this town, who's ever come into here. And here you are, a random English bloke walking in can I play some Dota?
To be fair, the one in La Paz was pretty swanky. That we
Yeah,
went
we did
into.
go
It
to one in
was,
Bolivia, which was quite nice.
Yeah, that was a pretty posh one, but still similar sorts of people in there. But yeah, the people were kind of I thought that the guy in the what is it, LGP team? LPSD?
PSG.LGD.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
main guy
Yeah,
in that
sure.
one who won one of the matches for them. He actually seemed kind of cool. He looked pretty cool. Not like
Do you
a
mean
weirdo.
Somnus or FY?
Well, the one with the glasses.
I couldn't remember any of their names.
There's
Yeah,
two,
that one,
there's
yeah.
two with glasses. So there's Somnus who played mid, and then there was FY who played. He played the Phoenix. That one game where he just I think it was
Okay.
game 3 where they won like really like substantially.
No, I think it was the guy who won them the first game of the tournament.
Oh yeah, that was Somnus. They're mid, yeah.
Yeah. But also going back to your point, Lou, about like how it's really weird because they're just like, it's not a physical sport and they don't like have the same bearing as an athlete. It was also like such a weird viewing sensation watching them like feeling all the emotions that like an athlete would feel after like finishing a race or like a game of tennis or something like that. But they're completely like not sweating, completely just physically relaxed. It's just such a bizarre thing.
Yeah, sat behind a computer.
Saying that, though, it must be utterly mentally exhausting. It really must.
The
Especially
mind
when you're
game,
gone.
Louis. That was a mind
Exactly,
game.
like they say in the first part of this, I think it's like the first thing they say in the documentary is it's Seb or maybe one of the other guys of OG is like, it's about breaking the opponent's mind.
Yeah.
And some people it's easy to do that with, but some people are very hard to do that with. And it sounded so sinister when they said it. Sounds like Hannibal Lecter or something. But yeah, it must be utterly draining thinking that going from constant communication to the 4 other guys in that tiny, transparent booth with you, to then just, it's over now. Catch your breath back, but you don't actually have to catch your breath back. You just need to like
Go
have a
outside
ciggy
for a
to take your
fag.
mind off it. Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Another thing, this is particularly for the more gamery people in the chat, probably. But don't you think it was really cool how, when there was like a big important moment in the fight, because obviously because of the nature of Dota, you can't even see half of what's going. It just looks like carnage.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they'd animate it into like a you know what I mean? They'd actually animate the fight scenes.
I didn't like that.
You didn't. I think that's so cool.
No, I'd rather, and I actually thought as well, like they cut away from the gameplay quite a bit in the actual edit. Like there was quite a lot of moments where they'd lose, but it wouldn't show the loss. It would cut to like a reaction of those, and I guess like that gives the point anyway. But for those like pre-rendered bits when they were acting it out, I was like, okay, I guess that's cool. And I suppose it probably would be better for someone who like wasn't as familiar with it. And even, I'm not saying like when it goes to those big team fights, I have any idea what's going on because I don't. It just looks like an absolute mess. I just watch the bars and see if they go up or down.
Yeah, no, that is it. Yeah.
But I rather they would have like stuck to the gameplay on that one. I thought that was, like Louis was saying, part of like making it really glossy. It just felt a bit like too overproduced for me, that part.
The bit with Seb where he's running through the woods, and you can hear the commentators like saying like, blah blah blah, and then there's the bit where, if you remember, obviously what was actually happening was there was the Phantom Lancer, which was the blue guy. He was getting the enemy who was PSG.LGD had his like foot on him. That's what we saw, and he was like beating him up, and then Axe like jumped in and killed everyone.
Yeah.
Like Seb,
Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously, like what was actually happening was just that there was just a normal fight going on. But that just made it look so much cooler.
No, I agree.
Would have made a cool cinematic.
I thought at first I thought it was really jarring that it would go to those pre-rendered sort of Warcraft-esque. I mean, it was an old Warcraft mod, wasn't it? Dota 2, but
Yeah, it was.
but yeah, for someone that doesn't really care about much of it, like me, or understands any of the gameplay that I'm looking at, it definitely helped me conceptualize what is happening. So it worked. So I got over it and quite enjoyed it.
What is that? The animated bits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the cinematics.
I really liked that, and I've always thought this about Dota, is that they clearly put so much effort into like these characters, and like the look of them is really cool, and I love the fantasy element of the game. Like I think that would be like really a cool thing to play. But I hate, and I hate it with like FIFA, and I hate it with watching football as well on the TV. How far away it is, like you can't really see what's going on easily. Like the figures are so small, and it completely loses its like immersive. Well, probably not if you're like obsessed in playing it, but just as a casual watcher, it really ruins the immersion. And
no, I know what you mean. Because I get that sometimes.
Especially because they're such cool characters as well. Like, it'll be so much better if, like, I don't really know how it would be possible. It probably wouldn't be, but to just like see more of the fighting up close, or to get like a closer view of what's actually happening. So I thought the animated bits did that really nicely, especially if you're like not familiar with it. Like, and I would really struggle to watch the screen of a Dota match and be able to have any slight clue as to what's going on. So yeah, I thought it would be a good film as well. Could they do a Dota film, like, and animate the characters?
They did do a Warcraft film, which this is like Louis said, it's Dota came about as a mod to the old Warcraft games. So
the old Warcraft cinematics were incredible as well. I remember playing Warcraft 3 on my PC when I was about like 9, and I would just weep over how incredible they looked. I remember getting really drunk after graduation with Jack. Me and him lived in the same house for a little bit, and I insisted that we watch all the cinematics from Warcraft 3 on YouTube. And then I think he made me watch all the cinematics from Halo Reach, and we were just like, oh, fair play, these are all really bloody good.
Good cinematics are insane. Has anyone played, I don't know how much of the Total War games you've played.
I've never.
I haven't played them.
Have you never played any of them?
No.
Oh, you're missing out. But the Total War games are great, and the cinematics are sick. And the best ones is, like, there's one, you know, Shogun Total War, which was like the first one they did. It's set in like, you know, medieval Japan, and you can get when you get your ninjas trying to assassinate someone, it will start a cinematic. That pops up on your screen of like your ninja actually like scaling a wall, and he has to get through, you know, you'll watch him actually trying to get round guards and stuff.
That sounds sick.
And like sometimes he'll get caught or like mess it up, and he'll just get like his head cut off, like, and you'll be like, you know, shit. You have to watch him die. Yeah. But then other times he'll actually like do a mega cool backflip and slice the other general's like head off, and it will be really cool. I always love a good cinematic, you know.
It's a nice touch, isn't it?
I think for those, for like storytelling moments, they are really cool. But slightly off topic, nothing annoys me more than when I'm watching a conference and they're like, oh, here's the big reveal of a game, and it's just a cinematic. I'm like, I want to see gameplay.
Oh, you see,
I don't mind it for games that are much more story driven. I feel like with like a Last of Us sort of thing, I think it's kind of earned because that game, people loved its story, and so I think it's fine.
And it gives you a nice sense of like the tone as well.
Like,
but I don't.
It just looks shit though, doesn't it? Like when you're watching a Dota screen, it looks crap. It does not look good. It literally.
Yeah, that's why. That is wholly why I can't. I don't care.
Yeah, I couldn't give a crap.
It's too much for my eyes to take in.
Yeah, there's so much information
at one time. It's so underwhelming as well.
But
like,
then again,
James, can you remember when you were like, "Oh my god, look at this sick thing I did with Monkey King," and you're showing me, and you were like, "Oh," and then I like paste it over here, and then I dodge the hook, and it literally, I was watching it on screen, and it's like this guy. It looked like this little blob was like moving so slowly across the screen. Like it did not look really cool and exciting.
Olivia, it wasn't Monkey King. It was Treant Protector.
My bad.
Clearly wasn't even paying attention. No, but to be fair, the thing with cinematics is sometimes they can even be too good that it makes the game seem really hype.
Yeah.
And then the game is rubbish. Like, do you remember they did a massive campaign of releasing like 3 or 4 insanely gorgeous, super cool cinematics for Elder Scrolls Online before it came out? The
I don't
cinematics
remember seeing
were
that. I remember they
so
did the
lit.
same thing with the Old Republic.
I remember one.
The Star Wars
Oh
MMO.
my god, they looked so
I actually think the Old
cool.
Republic's pretty good.
And then
Not bad, that
obviously
game.
Elder Scrolls Online happened. The less said about it, the better. But the cinematics, the whole game was worth it just for those cinematics, mate. It's so good.
The biggest example I can think of that, I don't know whether you guys remember it or not, but when that first Dead Island trailer came out,
Oh yeah,
that was all in reverse. Everybody
it
went
is
crazy
such a
for this one
fantastic trailer. That it's well worth
It's
looking
a
up.
really great trailer, but not representative of the game whatsoever, other than the fact that there's zombies.
That's like
I kind of like
I
that.
remember watching like trailers for games as a kid, and like it would be I remember specifically it was a Spyro game, and the cinematic bit literally looked amazing, like this purple dragon like flying through these amazing scenery, and then it was like it would like flip to the actual like gameplay of it, and then I was like, wait, so which one is it? I was obviously a little kid, and then I saw it said like not actual game footage in the corner, and I was like, oh, that looks crap, I'm not gonna get that. I'll have the other one.
I don't know if anyone ever. My brother and I were really, really into the Tony Hawk's games as kids, and I think it was American Wasteland where the whole marketing ploy for that game was that there were no more load screens.
Yeah.
And
It was
the
just
advert
one
was
big
Tony
area,
Hawk's
wasn't it?
skating, and he's about to do like a kickflip, and then like it hits a wall, an invisible wall, and he's like, "Bro, stop loading." It's like Tony Hawk's
yeah.
American Wasteland. No more loading.
This has gotta go.
You shouldn't have to wait to skate. New Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. First skating game with no loading screens. Tear up the streets of Hollywood, mess with rich people in Beverly Hills, shred near the beach in Dogtown. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
And basically,
Rated T
what
for
that
T.
game did was there were loading screens. They just hid them. You had to go through really long corridors with nothing in it to get to the next zone. That's worse than a load screen.
Oh my god. Load screens are fine as long as they don't take too long. Like,
I didn't realise it was such a big deal. I can't believe they based their entire marketing around the fact that they didn't have a load screen, but they just did. They just hid them.
yeah.
I remember with Sims, the load screen before you get into game just getting longer and longer with every expansion pack you add on until it's about half an hour to get into
Heating
your
up
game,
your
yeah.
computer to
I
buggery.
feel like the 2000s PCs were not built for all those expansion packs. Like, it would literally, sometimes it would take me half an hour on the loading screen before I got onto my family, and it was just the most, not half an hour, probably like 10 minutes though. It was honestly a really long time.
It's the equivalent of
I
you
do
driving
remember
10 minutes to actually visit family.
Back to the
simulating it.
documentary, and a shot which stood out to me the most was when they just found out they lost. I keep forgetting what that team's called.
PSG.LGD.
Yeah, that one. They found out that they lost, or it's just like, yeah, the game was over. And it was just that still shot on just that one guy's face, and he literally just like didn't move a muscle, and it was a really long shot, and I thought that was quite a bold choice, like for a
And the fireworks were going off in the background. And...
yeah. Oh my god, yeah. And it's just like his reaction was honestly, you can tell he's literally destroyed by.
I laughed at that initially, and then I was like, must be heartbroken.
Yeah.
I don't know that. Like I said, the documentary really, really invites you to dislike that team.
I disagree.
It does a bit.
Oh
It
mate,
does a bit. I
when
definitely thought that.
yeah, when you're in OG's booth and you can hear the crowd outside going, "OG, go home, OG, go," and they go to the trouble of subtitling it just so you really know what they're saying.
Yeah.
To be fair,
yeah.
'cause, like,
It's
it
like,
was
at that
very
point-
angled towards them. Like, I guess that was sort of like the storyline they were crafting, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like, well, if you're doing a bias, it's not. It's a bit of a fails in its document. like as a documentary. It's pretty biased.
It's definitely entertaining in that way because it's made that way.
Mm.
Because
Yeah,
it invites you
Gives
to
you
like
someone to
them
root for.
when it pays it off.
Definitely.
It's really elating.
I honestly,
Elating is not even a word. You feel elation, but yeah, I know what you mean. It feels like it should have been a bit more 50-50.
I want to
in terms of the
watch.
teams.
Interestingly, sorry,
I
go
was
on.
just
Liv.
gonna say, I just want to watch more. I know you can't have a true neutral, but truly neutral documentaries. I feel like even the most neutral documentaries, like that one, was meant to be, it's just showing what happened. They've always got a bias, haven't they? They're always on someone's side, and it's pretty obvious in most documentaries you watch what the correct side is, and it is a bit annoying sometimes.
You remember? Yeah, I did remember thinking, like Louis said, that that OG was the one I definitely wanted to win. I don't know if that's just because that was a little bit of a deliberate thing by the documentary, or they just sort of came off better. And like PSG did, like they tended to have a sort of different tactic and to make themselves feel confident, which happened to be sort of taking the piss out of OG rather than just saying how good. Like OG were just like, we're amazing, we're going to win. Whereas PSG sort of went, look at this idiot with his notes.
Yeah.
God, look at this idiot. God, he's walking around like that with all his notes out. What an idiot. You know what I mean? So it was a different sort of tactic. But, each to their own into getting into their mindset. But
Especially when they did that bit where it's like how dare he choose Axe in front of the something
yeah,
god.
in front of
Oh,
the
that
Tusk
was
King.
such a funny
Yeah.
line. How dare
he literally spanked you with Axe.
Yeah,
He
I
chatted
know.
shit and he got banged.
Yes, he did.
No, I like that
Interestingly,
aspect of it.
sorry, go on, Lou. But I was just going to say the next year final 2019. If you guys do want to watch, the final is actually between two teams they're actually like quite good friends. Like even with players on the other teams, like they know each other. So it brings a different sort of atmosphere because obviously in this one, you can tell that they sort of don't really like each other that much, and they sort of like there is a little bit of strong competitiveness between them that almost radiates a bit of bad blood. Whereas the tournament that happened afterwards, like before it kicks off, the captain of one of the teams literally has to say, right, all right, guys, we know who they are. They're good guys, but no mercy. Like, we're here to win. Like, at the end, we'll all, like, tonight, whoever wins, we'll celebrate together. Whatever. That you sort of get that vibe. We'll have a few drinks together and celebrate getting this far, but let's smash them. You know what I mean? Like, we want to win.
They're not your friends out there. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're on the pitch or when you're at your desk.
When you're in your booth.
Yeah.
When you're in your glass cube.
I thought it was so sick. Actually, they shot
When you enter the
like from
cube.
like a stylistic thing. The way they did going into OG's booth, and you hear it, the door close, and then you can no longer hear the crowd. I thought that was a really well directed piece of the documentary. I was like, it did a really good job
Yeah,
of
it's quite cool.
showing you what it's like suddenly having to get in the zone, and that you have to forget all the pomp going on outside. I thought that was so interesting.
I was really impressed by the actual production value of that final as well. Like I know, obviously with an 11 million prize pot, it's going to be big, but even the stage setup, the way that they had them in those little booth things, and then when they were doing picks and bans as well, they had the characters come up in those animations as well. It's all so
Expensive Banzuki.
so much has gone into it. Yeah, it was very Banzuki, wasn't it?
Better than Bamzuki, I think. Yeah. I was just going to say, interestingly, I think the prize pot for this one altogether, so the first place prize and all the other prizes for lower performing teams was about $25 million. And
Crazy.
the 2019 one, so the one that's just happened, was I think $35 million.
What?
So even more,
That's
by a
insane.
massive percentage increase.
Mental.
And obviously this year it's been cancelled because of Corona, but it has the potential to be just as high, if not higher, I think, than last year. So it had the potential. So it's just getting bigger and bigger, I suppose.
Well, that leads into what I was going to say quite nicely, because what is actually so bizarre, I think, for us, is that Dota is just not really a thing in the UK, is it? Like, it's like one of the, did you say, what is it, like one of the most popular games in the world?
Well, yeah, I think definitely played by a wide regular base, especially in Asia.
Yeah, like when you go,
biggest.
like South America, it wasn't huge from what it sounded like.
It was pretty
But
big.
it was pretty
You'd
big.
see it
Yeah,
on street corners and stuff everywhere, like in internet cafes. They'd advertise it
but
everywhere.
like in the UK, like people, your average person has not heard of Dota. It's not like Call of Duty or Minecraft.
Jamie's looking a bit.
Oh, come on,
The
Jamie.
thing is, Jamie,
no one's
is
heard
that
of
no,
it.
Jamie, she is right. Honestly, my friends,
I suppose,
who
yeah.
aren't into PC gaming. Before I got into it, they definitely wouldn't have heard of Dota.
I was going to say it's like 1 degree removed from surface level gaming.
Yeah.
In the way that like FIFA, Call of Duty, that's like Fortnite. Sort of
Yeah,
like
I suppose
top
that's
of it.
true.
And then below that, you kind of get your Dotas.
Yeah.
I would say,
I suppose the general public only get that first wave as well of, like you said, your CODs and your FIFAs and that kind of thing. Yeah, that is
like even
true.
if you're a casual gamer, like someone who just plays like FIFA or like Fortnite or Call of Duty, which like you just play like for fun casually. I like people haven't heard of Dota. Like I asked this dude at my work, and he was like, I know he plays like his Xbox, and he was just like, "What's Dota?" And I was just like,
Yeah. If you were anywhere into like a bit of a geek, with want for a better word, and have grown up playing Gmod on Steam, buying games on Steam, for when they're in the sale, and playing all that as a teenager, you would definitely know what League is and what Dota is. And
had you heard of it, Louis? Because you're not a massive gamer, are you?
If you're not into PC games, it's not that well known.
Yeah, I knew what Dota was.
You did
before
James
kind of
and
pay
Tifa.
attention to games. No, I knew what Dota was before that.
Oh, cool.
I swear.
No. Because I know Jamie's obviously a massive nerd, so he definitely heard of it.
Cool down.
Jamie's the nerdiest of us.
Jamie is a nerd.
Jamie likes to do puzzles on a Friday night, but on Steam.
With you.
Shut up. That wasn't me.
Jamie, what?
Meanwhile, I'm busy playing Dota.
Jamie, what game are you playing currently? Like, are you gaming?
I am actually. I was up quite late last night playing Dark Souls on my Switch.
Oh, your Switch.
Not
Is it good?
Nice.
Is the Switch port good?
Yeah. It's alright, yeah,
You
it's
have
not
Animal
bad.
Crossing yet?
It's good fun. It's quite well suited. I don't know, I never played Animal Crossing back in the day. I missed that train. I know.
It is good. It is good.
I'm literally considering dropping 300 quid on a Switch just for Animal Crossing. Like, that is a level of nostalgia.
To be fair, get a Switch. They're sick. I love it so much.
I'm thinking
I've
about
been
it.
playing mine loads recently.
I was so tempted in lockdown, I almost got one.
It's worth it for Breath of the Wild. I think that's just one of the most incredible pieces of art I've ever experienced.
Wow.
Love it. Love it.
Next
It would
week's
be great to
discussion.
do a podcast app on, but it's like you got to drop like 100 hours into it. I
That's
don't
the
think
thing
people
about
would be willing to
doing
do that.
games. That's the thing about games, isn't it? It's like, unless you're reviewing Tetris, it's quite hard to like be like, okay, Liv. So yeah, this week we're gonna review The Last of Us. So just sit down for 50 hours, get to the end, and then we'll discuss it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
it's just not going to work.
quite a lot of effort to get through a whole game, so it makes it a bit difficult to review them. And that's why I thought that, okay, they haven't done a game yet, but this isn't a game, but it is about a game. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a good middle
That is
ground.
perfect. It was hard enough to get Jack to watch a 3-hour-long film, let alone like getting this group to, getting me to play hours and hours of a game, which I clearly won't be able to play. So yeah,
I'm quite glad you didn't set us to play 5 ranked games.
yeah. Oh my god!
That
Can
brings
you
me on to my next
imagine?
question.
Oh my gosh, it wouldn't be fun. It would just be you guys getting abused and told to kill yourselves by a load of Russians. I'd be like, this isn't very good art. This artwork isn't very nice.
I was chatting to Tigran the other day. We were playing a game of Civ.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. Jamie and James's ex-housemate, Tigran. And me and him were reminiscing about the time when, I think it might have been Liv's birthday the night before, and we're all just sort of hanging out of our arses at Jamie's and Tigran's. And James's friend Callum had come over to come to the party and just decided not to go home that day and just stayed all day. And we were playing Mario Soccer on the Wii, and you kept saying, everyone play me, James would. And he just wouldn't tell anyone how to play. He just hand them the controls and then spank them like 10-0. Oh, I'm really good. I've got a question for you, James. Because it's something I wondered before. So you, obviously you love Dota. You were keen.
I do like Dota a lot, yeah.
How do you reckon you'd get on up against one of the professionals?
Oh, well, obviously it's a 5-man team sport or game, whatever you want to call it. The short answer is I would get absolutely decimated. Decimated. Like, there's just no chance. I could play him 100 times and I would never win. There's no luck. It's pure skill. There's just so many skill-based things in that game that can be honed and perfected over thousands of hours. They would never lose to me. Like, if it was like players like me, me and my 4 friends who all play at the same amount as me, we got together and played any level of professional team, we would get absolutely destroyed, because it's just, they have 15,000 hours in the game. You know what I mean? That guy was saying, and I have 1,000 hours, but he has 15,000 good hours. You know what I mean? He has the knowledge. It's just incomparable. It's 100% skill, which is why I love it so much.
It is something though that I think would always prevent me from doing anything like that, apart from not caring about Dota. But would you not just get really sick of the game, having to just constantly rank and practice all the time? It would make me never want to play Dota again.
Honestly, it's a nice game because you get the progression. But seriously, like with Call of Duty and FIFA and stuff, right? Your average sort of competitive online game, I grew up playing. I just could not get into them that much. Like I have so many of them. I had like all the old CODs, you know. I had a few FIFAs here and there, and I play them online, and you know they'd be alright, but I could just never really get obsessed with them. Whereas Dota was probably the first online game that I could really get obsessed with. So I guess it's just MOBAs. I just find it more fun, I suppose. But like a lot of my friends got obsessed with COD, and you know, 15th prestige on World at War and all that. But I don't think I ever prestiged on a COD game, ever.
And like prestiging on those games is just a matter of time.
Yeah,
like, even the worst player can prestige if they've put enough in.
Yeah. Whereas with
a
MOBA, because of the rank and stuff,
You
it's
actually
like
have to be good.
if you just keep getting better and better and better, eventually you will be a millionaire. You know, if you keep being that, if you keep playing better and better and better. You know what I mean?
Like James keeps telling himself.
You know what I mean? Eventually, you will be a professional Dota player. If you keep improving.
When I was living in New Zealand, on my sort of last few weeks there, I was trying to sell my car in Dunedin, where I was staying with a friend of mine called Ollie, and he was in his last year at university there, and his housemates were all at university as well, and they were basically just like Jack's house at uni, just the Kiwi version. And it was just like a hideous shithole, this house. But he was really kind to let me stay there for like a week or so.
Not complaining.
And I loved everyone in that house. They were really good laugh. But they were a Rainbow Six Siege squad, that entire house. And they'd have to get on every evening at the same time and do ranked matches. And I remember being like, don't you guys ever want to go out to like bars or drink? Like, does that not appeal? They're like, no, we gotta do our ranked matches. We're almost a diamond league. It's like, all right. So I'd just be left on my own in the living room from like 8 to about 10 every evening when I was there.
I've got a Parisian mansion to raid.
That's really weird. I remember thinking, like, why do you have to dedicate? Like, you must have to do this every night. Like, they were like ranked high in the world. They were like top 20 or something in Siege.
Really?
Yeah, they were like something. I mean, I don't know. I'd never played the game, so it's all a bit of a mystery to me. But from the way they sold it to me, it was they were really good, but they have to constantly be doing it to keep the ranking. I was like, that just doesn't seem worth it. Because one day you won't be up the ranking, and you'll be 30, and you'll realise you didn't do anything with your 20s. Like, unless you start making mega money out of it. But I guess they could, but I don't think Ollie did. I think he became a chemist or something.
Similar.
So, how do we normally work for the podcast? How do we sort of do we sort of do a ranking, or
Sometimes.
Yeah, we are at about time.
how do we round it up?
Sometimes we do a little ranking. I don't feel like I want to rank this one personally. Sometimes we omit the ranking.
It is hard to rank. Like, obviously, I really enjoy it, but how can I rank it? It's like me ranking the FA Cup final.
That's what I was thinking.
Do you know what I mean?
But saying that, you absolutely can rank FA Cup finals. That was a shit final.
You sort of can, but it's just like it's going to be quite biased because if Man United won, I'd probably give it like a 10. You know what I mean? But if Liverpool won, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, it's weird.
So there is a high degree of bias to it.
That's the thing. Is like the actual result of the tournament shouldn't have an effect on the production of the documentary.
Yeah.
But the actual result is the plot of the documentary. So it obviously has a huge effect.
Well,
I don't think it would be anywhere near as good if the underdogs
Well, I
didn't
think-
win.
Yeah, it'd be really crushing.
Well, that is true, but I think a documentary is quite a weird art. It's weird to be considered as art because it's so factual based, but obviously there is a level of artistic value. Well, because this is an arts podcast, so that's what we're really discussing here is art. But this is a bit of it's less definable, I suppose, isn't it? Harder to put into one category. So yeah, and difficult to rank by that respect.
I love your summarization there, James. That it's like ranking the FA Cup final. Frankly, I think that speaks everything you need to know about this document. It's like an FA Cup final. Some years are good ones, some years are bad ones.
Yeah, basically. That's about it.
I enjoyed it though. I'd love to hear what other people think of it. I'm like interested to show it to other people.
If like instead of it being a DOTA final with some cinematics, it would be like the Wigan Man City final when Wigan beat them in an underdog match, and there's just instead of showing the actual goal, they just did a cinematic of him doing a triple backflip and
Ben Watson scoring the header,
slamming it in top bins.
That would have been quite funny if they did a CGI recreation of it.
You don't want to see Aguero actually scoring.
Or you want to see a poorly rendered Aguero.
Yeah, you want to see a slow-mo, poorly rendered version.
I have as a little side note before we end the conversation. I know like this is true of other ones. I'm not sure what it's like in Dota, but is it true that they like on a competitive level when you're playing at this high skill level, they take their own peripherals like their own keyboards and mouses and stuff that they use at home just because they're familiar with obviously like how their hands fall with it and stuff and like
I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. And like friends have told me before as well, there's like players who will, when they sit down at their desk, get out like a ruler and measure the distance between them and the monitor.
Oh my
So
god!
that they know that it's always the same.
Wow. Wow. That's
Little
crazy.
things like
I know
that.
they do the same with
Replicate, like,
fighting
the-
games with joysticks.
Yeah.
Like one key slip can be you know, imagine if pressing an R instead of a T in a 0.2 second flash moment lost you $10 million. It's, you know what I mean? Like I'd get my ruler out, mate. Like, I'd be.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's quite a small price to pay, isn't it? Just measuring the distance.
Isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? It's such a game of fine margins. You know, esports just generally are. You know, it's such fine margins. It's seconds and you know, inches between winning and losing, and having millions of dollars, or sitting there with a terrible look on your face while fireworks go off behind your head. You know what I mean? So it's a big thing, and I think that is why, you know, if limbering up before a football match makes sense, then why not measure your keys?
I love that moment after the tournament, after they've lost, when they're backstage, and there's like that really long moment where they just sat down and it's silence.
Oh my god!
And one of the players turns to the other and he just goes, "Should we go home?"
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I love how transferable that feeling is. One of the greatest feelings there is in the world of football is just seeing a child crying in the stands when the glory's been snatched from them. The crier is not even just a child, but like anyone crying because it didn't go their way. It's always kind of funny. I loved it when you saw all the PSG fans at this. There was weeping. I was like, oh, good. I'm glad I'm still laughing at that in esports as well as athletic sports. James the Freeman for taking the time to chat to us about Dota. Usually he just frequents bus stops and pub corners hoping to find people to listen to him, so it was nice for him to have ears willing to listen. Like I said in the intro, we're going to take a break from All That Was Quite Useless for a bit as our lives get a bit busier again, but the podcast is definitely going nowhere. We've already lined up more guests for Season 2 and we'll be recording more episodes shortly. Do tune in next week for the potential train wreck of the bonus episode where we look back over Season 1, and I'm sure we'll be having a few bevies, so why not join us? Thanks to Liv and Jamie again, and you listener. Till next time.